It's Richard Herring's Objective, and please welcome Richard Herring.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Richard Herring's Objective, in which I, Richard Herring, take objects that are censured and censored, determine why they make our blood boil, and then attempt to rehabilitate and celebrate them. I want to take a taboo and turn it into a hooray. Oh, shut your faces, that was a brilliant joke. And tonight, as always, I'm assisted by a woman you may recognise from off of that advert for butter-like spread that isn't butter. Yes, it's TV's Emma Kennedy.
Hello.
This show is about challenging prejudices that we sometimes don't even know that we have. We tend not to talk about this stuff too much for fear of offending each other, but we should talk about it because it throws up some interesting dichotomies. For example, if a guy said to you that he hated all black people, I think you'd despise that person quite correctly. But if someone told you they hated all of humanity, you'd prefer that guy to the guy who just hates the black people. Even though the second man, he still, if you think about it, he still hates all the black people, just like the first guy, but he also hates everyone else as well. I mean, at least the first guy likes someone, doesn't he? There's some love in his heart. But, you know, I agree. The racist is worse than the misanthrope because there's no logic to hating people based on their race. There is a logic, I think, to hating all of humanity. Believe me, I have to work with you on a nightly basis, and you're scum. Last week, I reclaimed the Hitler moustache for comedy, and consequently, I'm sure that in the last 7 days, you haven't been able to walk down the street without tripping over men and naughty ladies proudly sporting Chaplin tashes. So what's coming up next? Well, let's take a look through the object-shaped window to see what object I'm going to be objective about this week.
The Hoodie.
That's right. The hoodie, the garment worn by such fearful individuals as Rocky, Lady Sovereign, Obi Wankanobby, Samwise Gamgee, and Little Red Riding Hood. It's the most terrifying and offensive item of clothing known to mankind, or at least it was until Lady Gaga made that dress out of some raw bacon. Although that is sensible, as it would at least give her something to eat if she ever becomes trapped down a well. Which she will do if my plans come to fruition. And if they do, ironically enough, she herself will be made into a dress. What goes around comes around. Best that you forget I mentioned that, actually, thinking about it. But anyway, the hoodie. What could be more frightening than a sweatshirt made out of cotton with a hood? You can see why it's perceived as the clothing of choice of anyone wanting to cause trouble. Though imagine being part of the first gang to adopt this uniform of disgruntled youth.
What are we doing stuck inside? Let's get out there on the streets and cause some trouble.
We can't go out in T-shirts and jeans. We'll be ripped apart. If we're going to protect ourselves from our enemies, we need an outfit that will fill people with dread.
Yeah, like leather jackets covered in studs and spikes.
No.
Or maybe a stab-proof, bulletproof vest.
Nah, that wouldn't work, would it?
Some kind of robotic detachable hand with interchangeable blades.
No. Stop listing increasingly unlikely things. In comic convention, it will clearly be something innocuous. This is what we're going to wear, look.
A sweatshirt?
No, not just a sweatshirt. A sweatshirt with a hood.
Right. Oh, I don't really... Oh, hold on! Is it like the invisibility cloak in Harry Potter? I love that!
Yeah, it kind of is, because, look, I put up the hood and you cannot see my face.
Well, except that you can, because the hood only covers the back of your head, innit?
Yeah.
And won't policemen see us with our hoods up and suspect we're up to something?
Yeah, probably.
And people will be intimidated by us and cross the street?
Yeah, true.
And what if shopping centres introduce a policy where we're not allowed to wear hoodies at all?
Then we'll have to take them off.
Right. So, limited usefulness.
No, because some of the hoodies also have pockets at the front.
Oh, where you can conceal a gun?
No, where you can put both your hands in to keep them warm. It's like a muff.
A muff?
Yeah, a muff.
What do you mean, a muff?
Well, you know what a muff is.
Oh, I do know what a muff is. That is not like no muff I've never seen. All right, should we put on our hoodies and go out and cause some trouble?
Yeah! Oh dear, it's raining now. If we're going to look really tough, be able to fend off all the elements, you know what we're going to have to wear? Cagoule.
You stupid muff.
How has this seemingly anodyne and cosy item of clothing come to be associated with antisocial thuggery? How? What other gang of reprobates got named after what they wore? The Hells Angels got named after demons. Vandals and Goths got named after marauding Germanic invaders. The Black Panthers were named after a wild animal. Off the top of my head, the only gang I can think of who were named after what they wore are the Pink Ladies from Greece. I suppose we're just lucky we're in the UK, because here are some of the genuine names for hoodies in other parts of the world.
The Cotton Popover.
Look out, there's a gang of cotton pops.
The Kangaroo Sweatshirt.
I got mugged by a kangaroo. And in Saskatchewan, in Canada, the hoodie is called...
The Bunny Hug.
I wish it was called that here. David Cameron would have asked us to hug a bunny hugger. And you'd have wanted to, wouldn't you? It sounds snuggly. So why has the hoodie got this reputation? And if hoods are so terrifying, why aren't we intimidated by monks or hobbits or 6-year-old children in parka coats pretending they're Batman with the hoods on their heads and the coat flailing behind them like a cape?
You are intimidated by them.
I am intimidated, but they're quite scary, and also from the 1970s. They're like ghosts. Perhaps we're just afraid of people who cover up parts of the body that are usually uncovered. To find out, I got myself a pair of pink mittens, tied them together with a long piece of wool, and I went out on the streets of London to find out what people would make of this potentially dangerous new trend. I just wanted to ask you about my whether you're intimidated by my mittens.
Doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother
do whatever you want to do.
Would you be intimidated if I had a hood on, though?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
I can see your face. You look like a friendly face.
My hands are more dangerous than my face. Yeah, you think they're nice?
Good on you,
Think
man.
it could catch on?
They've got pearls in it.
This is all right, isn't it?
No, if you like them, good on me. Yeah. They look good. I like the string.
But you're not at all scared of me?
No, should I be?
You're not scared of anything, are you?
I am scared of things, just not.
You're not scared of a 43-year-old man wearing mittens?
It suits you.
Not scary? If someone had a hood, would you be scared of them?
Maybe, it depends on the time of the day.
What are they going to do with their face to you?
You can headbutt.
Yeah, they could do that. Not scared at all?
I know I can take you on, so I'm not bothered.
The hoods,
yeah,
they're a bit intimidating. The fluffy white gloves with the pearls, not so much.
They're kind of connected to my jacket via a string. Does that not worry you?
The worst you could do is tickle me with them.
Yeah, I suppose. So you're not really afraid of wool at all?
They're gorgeous.
Are you at all intimidated by me wearing mittens?
No, I think they're charming.
If I had a hood, would you be more scared of that?
No.
No, nothing in wool can offend you?
Embrace it.
OK, that's good. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
I was flicking the bees behind there. It seems a grown man wearing mittens is of less concern to the world than a young person keeping their head warm with a hood. I would have thought the 43-year-old man would be more worrying in that case. But are our fears actually anything to do with the hood at all? This story, taken from the BBC News website from February 2006, suggests not.
A supermarket has apologised to a 58-year-old teaching assistant who was asked by an overzealous security guard to remove her hooded top.
We're sorry if this has made Mrs. Parncup feel uncomfortable in any way. We will be speaking to our security staff to make sure this doesn't happen again.
But hold on, that is reported like it's a kind of joke item. But if it's hoodies that's bad, then surely it's bad whoever is wearing it. But it's clear that the problem here isn't with the hoodie or with hoods at all. It's with who is wearing them. It's only a problem when it's worn by young people. Would this kind of prejudice be permitted towards any other group in society? It's dangerous logic, isn't it? A crime was committed by someone wearing a hood, therefore anyone wearing a hood is a criminal. Isn't that like being worried about being defrauded every time you see someone in a canoe? Because of that one canoeist who faked his own death, or thinking that every white-haired, glasses-wearing 45-year-old woman is liable to drop a cat into a wheelie bin. To discover where the fear of hoodies came from, I spoke to Jack Forbert, a lecturer in sociology and criminology at the University of Bedfordshire.
What the mass media do is that they create a kind of panic around issues, and the hostility as a consequence of that is greatly exaggerated.
Sure.
In other words, it's very disproportionate to the problem. The really interesting thing for me was that Blue Water Shopping Centre actually banned the wearing of hooded tops, and as is usual with these kind of things, when you demonise young people, they tend to do it all the more.
Sure.
The actual irony of the whole situation was that in the weeks following the ban, sales of hooded tops in blue water shops actually went up.
Yeah, it's almost as if Blue Water had come up with a publicity scheme in order... I'm sure they didn't do that, but what an amazing piece of publicity that would be. But what percentage of youngsters actually commit crime?
Known young offenders commit about 10% of all crime. But when we get moral panics like this, the majority of the public actually think that they commit at least 40% of all crime. When you say what percentage of youngsters commit crime, well, what percentage of the population commits crime? I would say 100%.
Right.
We all commit crime.
Yeah.
Have you ever...
I've done everything. I've got away with everything. I've done the lot. He's right. We all have committed crimes of some kind, whether it's speeding, taking stuff from hotel rooms that isn't actually ours, being dishonest about our tax returns. But only 1 in 10 crimes are committed by the young. So should we actually be 9 times more scared of older people? I know how easy it is to make these dangerous and incorrect judgments, because last year I myself was mugged by someone who would be called a hoodie. I was in Shepherd's Bush, where I've lived for the last 7.5 years. It was the middle of the day. There were hundreds of people around, and I was on my iPhone. I love my iPhone. It is the best thing in the world. I prefer it to any human being by miles. If my house was on fire, I would rescue my iPhone first. Then, if there was time, I'd go back and get my latte maker. If after that there was still some time, I might go back and rescue my girlfriend. I was just walking along when this guy cycles up behind me, deftly just grabs the phone out of my hand and cycles off. And I couldn't believe it. For a second, I didn't even know what happened. I was confused. Then I saw him. I was like, no, not my iPhone. No, anything but my iPhone. I'd rather he'd ripped out my heart than taken my iPhone. I'd rather he'd waited until I'd had a baby, then come round to my house and flushed it down the toilet. I would. No, I would, because you can get a mechanical heart these days, can't you? You can just have sex with someone else, make a new baby. Where am I going to get a new iPhone from? It had all my solitaire statistics on it. You can't back those up. That's 400 hours of my life just gone. I might as well have just wasted them doing nothing. I tried to chase him, but he was too fast. He was on a bike. It was a young black guy, as it happened. He was in a hoodie. He was wearing a black beanie hat. And I have to tell you, the incident made me very upset. I was humiliated. I felt angry. I was formulating revenge for the rest of the day. I thought, the next phone I get, I'm going to put a remote control bomb in it. If anyone tries to steal it... then I thought, no, wait, I'll craft an exact replica of an iPhone out of excrement. Okay, then walk around with that, just pretending I'm on the phone. Suddenly someone comes in, grabs it, be like, oh, no, why? Which, when you think about it, it's going to be quite a Pyrrhic victory, isn't it? The 3 months of walking around with a turd pressed to my ear might not... But I felt scared. I'd never been a victim of crime in West London. It made me feel a bit odd and scared walking around. That night I was leaving the tube. It was quite late at night. There was a black guy walking towards me. Without thinking, just subconsciously, I just stepped to one side to give him a bit more room than I usually would. I realised what I'd done. I thought, oh my God, this is terrible. As having my iPhone stolen by a black man, has that made me racist against black people? This is awful. And then another black guy passed me, and again, I subconsciously gave him a bit more room. I thought, this is terrible, I'm a racist, this is the worst day of my life. Then there was this white guy cycling towards me on the pavement. You know what? I was scared of him as well. I just veered away. I thought, oh, thank God. I'm not a racist. This incident has made me hate all of humanity. The point is, though, that I'd allowed that one incident, on whatever level, to prejudice my view of strangers who had done nothing to me. And now, even a year later, I'm still a bit cautious. When you think about it, I've lived in Shepherd's Bush for 7.5 years. That's about 3,000 days. And only once has a hoodie directly interfered in my life. 1 in 3,000. Although, to be fair, I only got bothered once that day, so maybe it's fair to say it's 1 in 72,000 hours. In fact, the whole thing was over in less than a minute. So, if you think about it, it's 1 in 4.32 million minutes. Isn't it strange to be so concerned and influenced by something that happens once in 4 million times? The problem's not as big as our imaginations might let us think. The biggest crime I've actually ever fallen victim to was when I was swindled out of a £1,000 deposit on a flat by a bogus estate agent who, as it happened, was a middle-aged bald man in a suit and tie. Do I fear that demographic? No. I don't, even though middle-aged men in suits and ties have done much more damage to our economy in recent years than young people. Even though middle-aged men in suits and ties sent us to an arguably illegal war in Iraq, it's still those young people that, in my mind, are the criminals. Jack Vobert certainly agrees with me on this one.
Over the last 30 or 40 years, the vast majority of moral panics have been about young, working-class people. And it's no surprise that the moral panic about hoodies was supported by the middle class and by the press. Working-class youngsters are always the easiest targets to pick on because they have very little power. Also, I think what it does, it helps obscure the crimes of the powerful.
And this has been going on for a long time. As he says, back through the 70s and the 60s, we had football hooligans, the mods and the rockers. Is there any evidence that young people are getting more criminal or violent than they used to be?
I got interested in the whole issue of moral panics because I was one of those mods that went down to Brighton in the 1960s. So, I was astounded at the time about the media panic there was about mods and rockers.
You hated those rockers, though, didn't you?
Yeah. No, in fact, that's one of the things about it. To some extent, that division between mods and rockers was a media creation.
Yeah.
Because, my best mate was a rocker. When my scooter was laid up, I used to borrow his motorbike and vice versa,
It's beautiful, isn't it? Mods and rockers coming together. And Jack actually said that since the 1990s, people don't realise that crime has actually fallen by 42%, despite the fact the Labour government introduced loads more crimes onto the statute book. So why are we so keen to blame the young? But there's this feeling, despite the facts of the contrary, that each generation of youngsters is worse than the last. But if that was truly the case, wouldn't the world be in anarchy now? Isn't it the case that each generation of teenagers is broadly the same? A bit bored, a bit frustrated maybe by the fact there's nothing to do, that they have no power, annoyed by the way that adults treat them. Teenagers, if you're listening to Radio 4, what are you doing? If your parents are telling you that things were different in their day, then try and take a sneak at their teenage diaries. This is genuinely my diary that I wrote as a teenager, the 18th of June 1982. This is how angry I am. Sod off, world. Go on, bugger off. You all hate me, and gradually I'm beginning to hate all you. I don't like any of my so-called friends. My family doesn't understand me, they don't listen to anything I say, and they call me childish, and then they wonder why I get violent. My mum is pathetic. She is so immature. But so are all adults when you think about it. She says things like, "Isn't war stupid?" And it seems so false and so silly that it makes me mad. Adults are immature. They have to rule everything like little kids. They, having the strength, always win. But what is the point of telling kids to respect adults and not argue with them when they too will be adults one day and so will not have to respect other adults, so the training is a waste of time? Which, if you manage to follow that, that is genius. The whole fabric of society gets on my nerves. All of it, the whole fabric. And then I think you can see what a nice life I was actually having despite this anger. From the example I choose of the worst thing in society, the father and mother love each other and their 2 kids and give them a good upbringing, and all is happy apart from the occasional argument between parents and children. But these are kept quiet as the parents do not want people to think whatever they will think. All must look good, and if anything looks awfully bad, the adults tut quietly to themselves. That's what I hate about society mainly. Adults who love their children tutting to themselves. Isn't it stupid? If I think differently when I'm older, it will merely be because I have fallen into the trap of power for adults. Do we forget how annoying it was to be treated like second-class citizens? Or do we feel that we've been through it, so it's only fair that the next generation of kids do too? And reading through my diary, it becomes clear that I was actually much more moralistic than I am now. I want you to prepare yourselves, because some of the things you hear are going to challenge everything you believe about society. I am anti-war. Not pro-war like you mean. And that means I'm actually against war. That's what that means. I think Britain should get rid of all our armies and weapons. It would show the rest of the world we were serious about disarming. It would do that, wouldn't it? It would show a level of seriousness about the whole disarmament issue, just to completely unilaterally disarm. I know what you're thinking. You go, well, surely we'd get attacked, people would be a war. I've thought of that. I'm not an idiot. No one would invade us, as other countries would intervene. So obviously all the other countries have to keep their weapons for that system to work. maybe I'm a bit misguided there, but at least I was trying, and at least I cared about those things, because I think young people do. Yet this prejudice against the young continues unchecked. I went down to Shepherd's Bush Green, the same place where my iPhone had been stolen just a year earlier, to talk to people wearing hooded tops to see what they had to say for themselves. What do you think it is that scares people about hoodies?
I don't think it's the hoodies that scare them. I think it's the gangs they're in, and they just happen to be wearing hoodies this year. Next year, it could be anything else, you know.
I can understand why they get intimidated, but I don't know, people take it over the top.
Why don't they look back to their young days?
Why have you chosen to wear a hoodie?
It's comfortable, I like it.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't I wear a hoodie?
Do you feel that young people are getting, like, unfairly judged in a way for being young by older people because of that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's like me judging an old person with a stick. Are they really going to chase me and beat me with the stick? No.
If you're wearing a hoodie, does that make you want to do bad stuff? Or no. So it doesn't seem to, like, offer much protection or even, like, hide you particularly well.
Not really.
No.
Too many cameras anyway. Yeah.
Well, I think probably young people are nicer than old people perceive them to be, right? Yeah. So have you guys done anything that's good for other people recently?
We have to do in school community service, help people around the local area and stuff. We do that. I wore a hoodie when I did that.
Yeah.
It's not a problem. Yeah.
Did you had to do it though? Did you want to do it?
No, you didn't have to do it. Yeah, it was a choice. If you wanted it to go on your CV and that, I thought, why not? It's not really a problem. Just because the media portrays us in a bad way doesn't mean we're all like that. Yeah.
Do you know David Cameron said that you should hug a hoodie? You want to get hugged by the Prime Minister?
What's the point of hugging a hoodie? Does that mean that hoodies are respected or something?
Yeah.
So what does it mean?
Yeah, David Cameron. But you're patronising the kids. Not like me. I'm their friend. It was weird because even though I'd already kind of got to the understanding that our young people were unfairly represented and patronised by the media, I was really impressed with all the people we'd spoken to. They'd been chosen at random merely because of what they were wearing, and yet all of them were very polite and eloquent, really nice kids. But why should I have been surprised that 15-year-olds had great stuff to say on this or any subject? The truth is, when we're 15, in many ways, you're cleverer than you're ever going to be. You're learning stuff at school every day. Your brain hasn't yet started to degrade and stop working like that of say, a 43-year-old. I'm not the only person to have noticed this injustice and age-related apartheid. This month in Harwich, in Essex, the local young people are starting up a hoodie festival devoted only to the hoodie, which is incredible. To find out what that's about, I talked to the festival coordinator, Libby Miller. So you are part of the Harwich-inspired youth action.
Yes, I am. I'm the coordinator for the group.
Cool. And is it deliberately got the acronym HIGHER?
Yeah,
That's
that
good.
was something one of the young people came up with.
I like it. It's very friendly. So can you tell us a little bit about the Hoodie Festival and why it's happening?
The main thing is to get younger people and older people, mixed generations, but all wearing their hoodies.
Right.
Just to kind of say, look, we're not bad, we're not thugs. We can all do this, and we're also going to try and get the police and other local organisations wearing hoodies so we can get some photographs of that.
Really want to see that. I've got to see a policeman wearing a hoodie. I hope they kind of get a big helmet on the top. Fern Lovett is one of the terrifying hoodies behind this project. So you are a hoodie wearer, Fern, is that correct?
Yeah.
Have you had any prejudice as a result of wearing a hoodie yourself?
Yeah, well, it seems like people cross over the road and they're, like, afraid to talk to you more if you're wearing a hoodie.
You don't sound very frightening to me on the phone.
No.
How old are you?
16.
So you're a 16-year-old young woman?
Yeah.
Are you heavily built? Could you look like you could punch someone?
No, not really.
Do you think that young people generally are more helpful than they're portrayed in the media?
Yeah, I think they are.
What have you done to help anyone recently?
I do dog walking and stuff for old people. And
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I thought I'd catch you out, but that's quite good. As long as they've not asked you to walk the dogs.
Yeah.
If you've just taken the dogs from old people, that's why you're getting this reputation.
No,
You've got to do it.
I haven't taken them from old people.
Okay, well, that's good. There you go, that's the hoodie that you are all terrified of. Good job she wasn't heavily built, wasn't it? So if you really want to stop young people wearing hoodies, then the answer isn't to try and outlaw hoodies. If you want to stop young people wearing hoodies, then all you need to do is to get all old people to wear hoodies. Jeans were universally cool until Jeremy Clarkson started to wear them. If every Radio 4 listener was to put on a hoodie, believe me, in a very short period of time, you'd find very few kids wanting to wear them. There is such an article as a Radio 4 hoodie. BBC Radio 4 written on the back. These are only for promotional purposes at the moment, but if they could sell them, and if you were all to purchase one, not only would we destroy the edgy image of the hoodie wearer, but also we'd raise valuable funds for the BBC. By my reckoning, if all of the 10.4 million people who listen to Radio 4 each week were to buy a Radio 4 hoodie at £20 a pop, the BBC would make about £156 million, which would keep Radio 4 running at no cost to the licence payer for nearly 2 years, or pay Graham Norton's wages for a fortnight. But the BBC won't do that because they're pussies and scared of contravening the BBC Charter, which, to be honest, isn't worth wiping your nose on. What do you want? A charter upholding correct behaviour or £156 million? You are idiots, the BBC Directors Board. Please let me be on the telly. I just want to be on the telly. So why don't you, at home, go out and make your own Radio 4 hoodies like these two cool dudes?
Yes, look. I've decorated my hoodie with fabric paints to demonstrate my love for both the Archers and you and yours. It's whack.
And I have drawn a picture on mine of what I imagine the panel of the moral maze might look like. They are so fly. And to get the ball rolling, I'm putting on this Radio 4 hoodie myself. While I'm doing that, Emma is going to go out with one free Radio 4 hoodie and give it to the coolest person in our audience of misfits and nerds. Who's it going to be, Emma?
Just so I'm quite clear, you're asking me to find a cool person in a Radio 4 comedy?
No, Emma, you are looking for the coolest person.
There's a girl in a sort of quite cool hat back here. You look quite cool. What do you do?
I study neuroscience.
Oh, she's studying neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
Do you want me to move on, Richard, or shall I?
Give it to her.
Yeah, go on, here you go
wear that. Will you wear that out in the streets?
That.
Take that out. Look, it's...
She's going to wear it to lectures.
Publicising Radio 4 amongst the young. Thank you. The hoodie is not evil. It's a functional, warm item of clothing which only the mildest of villains would think was a disguise. More importantly, we should look at our young people with a less judgmental eye and realise that only a tiny minority are criminal tearaways. The vast majority of young people are harmless, self-obsessed, self-conscious idiots who take themselves a bit seriously and who are muddling through as best they can. Just like you were when you were a teenager. They're less racist than their grandparents were. They're less likely to put people in gas chambers than their great-grandparents were. Don't envy the young their youth. They'll only waste it like you did. Celebrate them and then try to embarrass them by wearing stuff that they like, but with a Radio 4 logo on it. Thanks for listening. Good night.
You have been listening to Richard Herring's Objective, written by and starring Richard Herring with me, TV's Emma Kennedy, was produced by Talusha Galani.